Starspawned, a game of tentacles and self-discovery, is a tabletop RPG made by David J. Prokopets, who, if you run in the right circles on Tumblr, you've probably seen. The game is fundamentally a creative system game where you, the players, are assuming the role of horrible creations of something from beyond. The game is very non-specific about lore and mostly makes do instead on vibe. At the start of the game, what you're going to do is create the objects you play with. Specifically, there are a number of mysterious terms crafted by rolling dice that represent something about you and about the other people at the table. There is no storyteller or game master for this. There are no dungeons. As far as I know, there's nothing you could really call combat unless you make it happen with your own ideas. This means this game gets to live in that space of a collaboratively maintained game state where you kind of have one character sheet and it's reasonably open information as to what everyone can do. You all, in some way, relate to these extremely strange words. These strange words are therefore somehow important to you, and while you tell your story collaboratively, there is a system in place for you and other players to devise possible meaning for the terms in front of you. As with all small games, there runs a risk of just flat out reading you the rulebook when I do this kind of video. But I wanted to bring this one to your attention because in a very small amount of space, there's a lot of very thoughtful rules choices. One thing is that you can have a great and glorious failure as well as a tragic and embarrassing success. And what that means is left up to players on either side of you. One side representing success, the other side representing failure. This puts some more of that theatricality into it, some of that sense of ritual and rite. When you are the player active, the two players on your side are recruited into it with this mindset that, hey, you need to be creative about this experience too, but also you, on one side, are thinking in terms of how this idea might wind up being brilliant, and on the other, you must come up with the worst tragedies you could imagine. It's a really nice idea, one I like a lot for involving collaborative storytelling, where one player may be trying to direct the action, but other players are responding to that not just in terms of, hey, I want to direct the action to my stuff, but rather, hey, what can I see in what you're doing when I put this lens onto it? Another thing the game experiments with is prime numbers in a dice system. They represent a sort of success or failure disconnected from your individual success or failure. And you want to roll prime numbers. The rules note that as your number of dice increase, you will wind up having fewer prime numbers show up, which means you are becoming overconfident and overly certain and less likely to actually be right when you roll your prime numbers. In this, the game puts itself at odds with its advancement, which is, in my mind, a clever use of a very limited number of tools. Players will actively seek to be careful about how many dice they can acquire if they see that as making the choices they want to happen less likely to. And of course, there is a sort of tragic hubris in, I'm sorry, I'm too good at the thing we're talking about that I don't know what it really is. This works with the theme of the game as ineffable and fundamentally unknowable creatures. That doesn't make sense to you or I, but we are limited meat people trying to imagine ourselves into the mindset of Starspawn, things that exist on an axis completely at odds with our own. Like I said, if you're on the same kind of tumblers as I am, you've seen this game. and probably plenty of other things like it. Prokopets is pretty prolific about sharing game design and world-building ideas on Tumblr. This just happened to arrive at an almost perfect moment for me, where I was thinking in terms of examining a tabletop RPG with a horror theme, and found myself not wanting to go in-depth on something vast and well-trod. There's definitely mileage to, say, a critical reading of various families in Vampire the Masquerade, or I could just bring forward the notions of how much I like the two different types of game Changeling can be. But those are big titles. They deserve deep, thoughtful examination that can be very challenging at this time of year. And you're not gonna start a game of werewolf or vampire for a Halloween party. And what's more, even if you do, that's probably because you were already a fan, and the game isn't expected to run very long. This is a sort of party RPG where you know you're going to your friend's place and you know you're going to play an RPG, but you don't need to know all the rules and you don't need to come prepared with character building or planning like that. The point is that you play this while the candles flicker around you and you have a bit of fun, but you don't feel necessarily like you are bound to that experience. Plus, there is a grandeur to those bigger titles and deeper political themes that merits a sort of wrenched-in, entrenched engagement. It would be remiss of me to not talk about the things those games do very wrong. What makes this slightly awkward is that when I decided to cover this game, I didn't know Prokopets was already an established distributor of this kind of game. And so my initial thought of, hey, this is someone's cool idea on Tumblr, and I'm going to take their work seriously, and I'm going to engage with it critically, and I'm going to put it in front of my audience, as a desire to promote smaller creators, kind of runs headlong, because Prokopets has a bigger audience than I do, but I still like talking about this kind of thing, and I want to hold this one up in particular because of how I found it, and where it is, and how simple it is. There is a vision of a game that requires layer upon layer of industrial work to verify, to actualize the gameness of the whole experience. But back when I was a lot younger, on the internet, you would find lots of games like this. RPG systems just slung up on someone's GeoCities website that you could check out, and you could play with your friends, and usually was designed for play over something like IRC. I am hosting the copy of Starspawned that I put in my description for this video, but I just want to underscore, that's not because I want to claim ownership of it. It's because the other place I've seen it hosted is Tumblr, which can have some extremely unreliable access lines for people from different countries and who are or aren't logged into the website. So there should be a link inside the PDF that will take you to the source. I'm not trying to claim I own it, I just wanted to make it easily available as reference for anyone who was watching this video and wanted to know what I was talking about. One of the fundamental books that forms the foundation of my readings as an academic is Bernard Suit's The Grasshopper, Life, Games, and Utopia. In that, he forwards that everyone's always making games. Playful experiences happen to us all while we're doing other things. What makes what we consider games commercial products is how well they are distributed, how easily they are shared. And there are a great number of games that aren't easy to share. What I love about this post is that it is sharing a game freely that may never get played, but it is the making of the game and the sharing of it that feels like the fun to me. I would love to put that thing out there in the world and see what reactions it gets. And hey, maybe it doesn't get any, and that's okay. That's a big part of the creative process, because what in Dread Month could be more horrifying than silence? Have a happy Halloween!